Presented by Quinrose.
So we're going to go with the original name assigned. This is going to be Juliet Capulet. I pre-translated this because the capture-to-text is only accurate about 60% of the time. So we're not using that. She's like, confirm signature, and then you're starting. And it's kind of broken here. It's like win and then up, and then it trails off because she's speaking to herself. And then she's like, I was crying. I was sad, lonely, and almost dead. Mother, father. No matter how much you call, there is no reply. The wind shatters my voice. I walked alone on the site near the forest in the Capulet territory. An MC is talking to herself, Juliet. She's like, she had escaped the mansion because she could not bear the loneliness of her father and mother missing, and then the gazing eyes of the servants. In retrospect, it was a miracle that a young girl was wandering alone and that she was safe. However, she did not want to be safe at that time. My young heart was raging with the sadness and loneliness of losing my parents. Even the words of my close servants had not reached me. I didn't want to die, but I did want to meet my dead mother and father. Probably my death was not well understood yet, and death is the one that's in parentheses. Her death. I wondered if I could walk to meet my mother and father. If I walked all the way with the cold wind blowing, was I doing it because my heart was still hurt?
どうした?どこか痛いのか?
And a boy asked, what's wrong? Does it hurt anywhere? She raised her disgruntled face with her tears showing at his voice, and I was simply surprised. There is no such thing as a random person, and surely no one was there before. Who? He appeared as if an apparition that appeared with the wind. In the moonlight, his blonde hair flows. This is the Capulet territory, unexpectedly a place that has become my young self's territory. The boy in front of her, who was wondering at her as if a stranger, turned his gaze on me.
大丈夫か?
And asked, are you okay?
そんなに泣いている?
Why are you crying so much? Saying so, the boy wipes the tears that floated on the corners of my eyes without any delay. It was done with a gentle fingertip. Oh, wow, oh.
どうしたんだ?
He's like, what happened? And at one of the gentle hands of a strange boy, I started crying more vigorously. I don't care where he came from or who he is, she trails off to herself. My mother and father have died, and my frozen heart melts. It overflows as if in tears. Dad and Mother, I want to see you. He's like, you. This voice came down to me as I crouched and began to cry.
泣かないで.
The boy's like, don't cry, after a pause. For some reason, such a voice is shaking, and I knew that it was his sign that he was approaching. I gently looked up. He's crying too. He was also weeping, as if it was killing the sound of his voice. His crying face in the moonlight was as beautiful as he could be seen to be. Like the moon, she thinks, trailing off inside. The two came together and wept until their voices died. That's it. I was saved. That was the first and last time I met him, but I still remember that boy of whom I did not know his name or identity. And about 10 years have passed since then. I just fire at a shooting range and shoot off my gun. 40, 41. The self-mark is a hit for 50 consecutive shots. 48, 49. Trigger pulled for the last shot. 50 shots and... Huh? I didn't want to shoot anymore today with the safety gear on my gun. Because... Oh, what happened, Lawrence? Do you need anything? She asks. And then thinks to herself, because there are customers here.
いや、いい腕だなと感心してただけだ。お前なら、試験を終えてキャピレット寮に帰っても、立派にやっていけるだろう。
He's like, Lawrence tells her, no, I was just impressed that you were with such a good arm. And you can do it well. He turned around and said this to me as he smiled faintly. She's like, thank you, only Lawrence would encourage me. Verona. The country where humans and vampires live, the two races in this country have been fighting for a long time. Humans live in towns, vampires live in forests, and between them flows large rivers called narrow rivers. The Capulet territory, the territory closest to the river in between, has long protected human cities from vampire invasion. It is not known why the two races exist, those of eating or being eaten, why they live in one country. By the time I was born, Verona was already in this state. There is no detailed book about the history of the country. She trails off to herself. A few remaining traditions only indicate that the founding of Verona dates back more than 800 years. At that point, maybe nobody knew the origin. Well, I have to replace the target with a new one. If you leave a hole in the target, it's bad for the next user, she thinks to herself. I take the new target plate I've brought and walk toward the target. For some reason, Lawrence also came.
的は変えなくてもいい。次のやつにまた使わせよう。
He's like, you don't have to change the target. Let the next one use it again. She's like, eh? But I learned that I had to change the target after using it.
穴だらけの的はな。だが、お前が使ったやつは真ん中にしか穴が開いてない。
Lawrence is like, the other targets are full of holes, but the one you used has a hole only in the middle. Because she's such a good shot, he's commenting on this. And he's like, leave it.
そのままにしておけ。皆へのいい刺激になるだろう。
And he's like, leave it, as it will be a good stimulus for everyone, so good motivation. Lawrence Grobbs, the direct archetype of a Grand Duke who governs Verona, is the keeper here. If there is an attack by Van Baya, which is what they call vampires, he dispatches a hunter there and manages the situation. It is his job to organize the city's patrols and work on precautions. Van Baya attacks at night in search of human blood just because they are eerie. I know they are sensitive to the sun, but they usually appear only after sunset and before dawn. It is a weak point that is difficult to poke through.
もう、この子を呼びに行くって言うから待ってたのに。二人で話し込んでるんだから、いつまで経っても来ないわけよね。
And a voice calls out, a nostalgic voice, I've been waiting for you to call this child. I'm doing the talking, so it's not going to go on forever, she told him. And I hear a nostalgic voice and turn around vigorously. She's like, Madeline, you came to the Hunter dormitory. As she ran up, she smiled and greeted me.
元気そうね。最近顔を合わせる機会がなかったから寂しかったわ。
Madeline's like, I'm fine, Juliet. I was lonely because I didn't have a chance to meet with you recently. She's like, me too, and I'm happy, to herself. If this person is your opponent, you can only say honest feelings. She is Magdalene de Moore, a great hunter. I was stationed in the territory of my Capulet, my home territory, and on some occasion I was told of her experiences and know-how. She is a strong and dependable person who has been active at the forefront, both in her personal teacher-discipline relationship and in having a close relationship with old friends. Sometimes I think of her like my sister. She trailed off, and she's like, I'm shy whenever I say something to her face, so it's a secret from her.
もうじき最終試験を受けて見習いも卒業ね。晴れてハンターになるのも間近。気分はどう？
Madeline's like, I'm going to take the final exam soon and graduate from the apprentice role. It's almost time to be a hunter. So how are you feeling? And Juliet's like, I'm looking forward to fighting with Madeline because I haven't experienced it much after the first time. I think she's lonely, she thinks to herself.
一緒にと言っても、私はキャピレット寮からお払い箱になると思うけどね。だって、立派なハンターが赴任するわけだから。
And Madeline responds together. I think it's going to be a payout box from the Capulet territory then, because a good set of hunters will be on the job. She approaches and starts walking at my shoulder. She sat side by side with me on a bench provided at the shooting range. Lawrence came with her, but he stood with his hands at his back without sitting. She's like, Are you a fine hunter? Don't joke. I'm really worried if I can keep up with the hunter's mess of hard work, Juliet responded.
そんなに心配しなくても大丈夫よ。
And then Madeline's like, Don't worry too much, everything will be fine.
最終試験は実地でのものになるから、嫌でも戦闘をこなすことになる。終わる頃には、あなたも一人でやっていける自信がついてるはずよ。
She's like, the final exam will be on the job, so you'll have to fight even if you don't like it. By the end, you should be confident that you can do it alone. And Juliet's like, I am prepared, and I listened to her story. I'm going to make sure of my effort even more. But those who are worried are going to still worry, she concludes. And I've been feeling desperate so far, she told him. I wonder if I can protect the Capulet territory properly. Trailing off.
キャピレット寮は、このベローナの重要拠点だものね。守りきれないと、町全体が危険にさらされる。
Madeline's like, the Capulet is an important base in Verona. Failure to protect it puts the whole city at risk. Suddenly I'm leaking sighs at Madeline's remarks. Although I know this, she thinks to herself, I wonder if I could stop the vampire attack by a newly trained... I wonder if I would be able to stop the vampire attack as a newly trained me when I come to protect the Capulet territory. She's thinking about after her hunter exam.
確かに新人には厳しい状況だが、領主のお前がしっかりしなくてどうするんだ。お前がヴァンパイアハンターを目指したのも、領主の皆を守るためだろう。
Lawrence tells her, sure, it's tough for newcomers, but what do you do if your lord isn't strong? Why did you aim to be a vampire hunter to protect everyone in your territory? He's like reaffirming for her why she's doing this. She's like, yes, that's right, Juliet responded back. And then to herself she thinks, to become a good hunter like your father, or like my father, and protect the lord of the Capulet, that's why I'm here. My father, who once protected the Capulet territory at the forefront, is my dream of longing. I've done my best to get closer to standing at where he had his back.
お前の父上のことは本当に残念だった。教会屈指の優秀なヴァンパイアハンターだったからか。
And Lawrence remarks, I was really disappointed about what happened with your father because he was an excellent vampire hunter at the church and trailed off.
そうね。あの事件は、人間にとってもヴァンパイアにとっても大きな事件だったわよね。
Madeline's like,
あなたのお父様はとても大きな功績を残したわ。
She told her, yes, that was a big event for both humans and for Vampire, but your father did a good job. She's like reiterating how serious it was and that he did an excellent job for what happened. That case was where my beloved father and mother were robbed of life in a silver bullet case. I quietly closed myself off and evoked my memory of it. A calm day with nothing different from usual. My father, my mother, my servants were laughing, and I was laughing as well. My mother was a lady from a noble family and always a gentle person with a smile. My father was a renowned vampire hunter and a vampire researcher. The role of the Capulet family lord for many years was to stop the assault of vampires who came over the river between the Capulet and their territory. My father did the job well and was respected by the people. She's like, good evening, Dad. What are you doing today?
いつも言っているだろう。この作業場には入ってきてはいけないと。
And he responded back, Julia, what do I always say? You have to ask to enter this workshop. But she told him, I like to talk to my father about the vampires here. I want to hear his story. My father had forbidden me from entering the workshop where he studied vampire and improved his weapons. But it didn't make much sense in regards to me, who was a tomboy. And before he was also a vampire hunter, he loved me deeply as a father. I show my head shaking loosely. Then my father makes a troubled face, and as he always says,
少しだけだぞ。まったく。お前にはかなわないな。
He finishes with, it's just a little, and trailed off, Juliet, I can't win with you at all. I can't beat you. At the end. She's like, wow, thank you, father. Juliet happily rushes to her father's side, and that's as she's watching the workbench lined with books and bottles. Everything here is a result of my father's research for the people. So she asks, hey, father, can I be a good vampire hunter?
なんだ、お前はヴァンパイアハンターになりたいのか？そうか。お前なら立派なヴァンパイアハンターになれるかもしれないな。
Her father asked her, why do you want to be a vampire hunter? And then he's like, well, and trailed off, yeah, you might be a worthy vampire hunter, he concluded aloud. She asked him, is it true, father? I brightened my expression. I grew up looking at a father who was respected and appreciated by many, and he was seen as a hero. I want to be like my father. That was my dream.
本当だよ。お前は好奇心が強く、勇気がある。それに、積極的に物事を理解しようとする優しさも持っている。
He tells her it's true, you're curious and courageous, and you have the kindness to actively try to understand things.
おまけにもう一つ。母さんに似て可愛らしい。
He finishes off with, and another extra, you're a cutie like your mother. The last one doesn't matter, father, question mark. Oh, what is this? She changes the subject. I turned to a single gun on a workbench, and rolling on it too were bullets of an unfamiliar color.
厳しいな。ああ、それには触らないで。見るだけにしておいてくれ。
He tells her it's tough, Juliet, in response to her former statement. And then he's like, oh, don't touch it, just watch, in reference to the bullets. My father's voice becomes a little hard. It must be that important.
それは銀の弾丸だよ。ヴァンパイアに有効かもしれないという話を聞いてね。銀は高価な金属だから多くは作れないんだが、製造中というわけだ。
He tells her it's a silver bullet, hearing that it might be good for Vampire. We're making some. Silver is an expensive metal, though, so you can't make much, but it is in production. She's like, silver? She thinks sparkling and trails off inside. The bullets shined in the sunlight streaming through the window. Who would have expected such a drama, and what would be handed down to future generations that night of such a ridiculous day? She's like, it was so normal, and if I could predict, I wouldn't have seen that much blood. Or, she thought after a pause, if I couldn't stop it, I could have saved my father and mother if I had more power. The sound of the bell rings. The sound of the bell signaling the vampire started an assault, and he'll fight. She's thinking of her dad. Dad will do it today, too. I was relieved, so when I hear that scream, he's going to be a battle boss. And someone's screaming, Kaya! She's like, that scream, and trailed off. Mother? Exclamation mark. She's all surprised. Opening the door as if breaking a door down, I just wore a cardigan on a nightgown as I ran as fast as possible, and in a second I was down the hallway of the mansion. Deviating feelings sew my feet. She's like, Mother! A couple's bedroom. There was no father there, though. There was a man in front of me, and my mother was leaning on the man without any force, and at his feet, a blood pool. What? What is this? Vanbaya, the words flashing in and out of my mind, the first human enemy for me to witness. The hair of the body is drenched. My instinct is screaming that it is dangerous, but my legs are unable to move because of my fear. The vampire is like, blood, blood, whoa, whoa, whoa. And the man raised and threw my mother's body as he flew to me. I'm going to be killed? It was that time. Her father bursts in. He's like, are you okay, Juliet? The man trying to attack me collapsed, and his body stopped working. She's like, Father! He's like, is there any injuries? And trailed off. And then he's like, or only Mother. And then he's like, who should we have been scared for? Shaking your head, rubbing your face against your father's chest, he saw my mother and my father's body shook. He's like, oh, what the hell? He tells her I have to protect you alone. In fact, after a pause, this mansion is currently being attacked by 30 vampires. She has no response at first. 30 vampires with abilities that were incomparable to humans. We're in a tragic situation, she concludes. He tells her I've run some servants to the church, but I don't know if it'll be in time. And he's like, but I can't afford to leave after a pause. That's why I'm staying. And he's like trying to get her to leave. He says, so Juliet, you're just safe for now in this place. And she tells him, no, don't make me leave my father. He says, listen, there is nothing you can do even if you are here. Please, give me a gun too, she told him. I'm sure it will help. He's like, however. And then she cuts him off. She's like, I want to be helpful too. They've stolen my mother. To that extent, my father seemed to be able to see in my heart. He pulls out a small gun from his holster and hands it over. He says, I mean, you are serious and you have a strong sense of justice. If I stuck it out here, you would never forgive me, he concluded aloud.
一発で仕留めることができた。
He tells her this gun contains a silver bullet, and I've shot this bullet before when I came here, but any vampire I was able to hit, it killed it in one shot.
銃を持ったからにはその責任を果たしなさい。
He tells her I'm not fulfilling that responsibility just because I had that gun, though. I looked up and stared at my father. Yes, she concluded and confirmed. At that moment, a black shadow appears in the window, though. Eh? She thinks.
美しい親子愛だな、キャピレット。まるで芝居を見ているようだ。
And the man says, it's such a beautiful parent-child love, Capulet. It's like watching a play. A man with a beautiful appearance. Where the eyes of mine and my father gather at the window, he came into this place calmly. A man with a distinctive white top hat.
お前は
Her father says, and you are. This is the third floor. It is difficult, well, it is a difficult height for an ordinary person to emerge from outside the window. But it is not impossible with a vampire, and I clasped the small gun in my hand. The vampire attacked my father with a bang. My father turned his muzzle, but it was too late. Human reflexes can't compete with the motivational ability of a vampire. There is a man's fangs in my father's neck. She's like, wah!
おい
And then Lawrence cuts into her flashback. He's like, Juliet. Oh, Juliet. She's like, Lawrence's voice recalls my consciousness that was immersed in memory. If it wasn't for that case, I wouldn't know that silver bullets were effective in vampires and killing them. And it's now called the silver bullet case. Included in that was the meaning of honoring Dad. I'm sorry, she tells him aloud, blushing embarrassed.
大丈夫？ごめんなさい。嫌なことを思い出させちゃったわよね。
Madeline cuts over and she's like, are you okay? ? I'm sorry, I reminded you of bad things. Madeline, sitting, squeezed gently and grips the middle of the blue 23. I'm assuming her gun. I smiled back to the two who looked at me worried. Juliet's like, it's okay, it's not that bad. And I'll become a great vampire hunter and slay the enemy of my father and my mother and protect the peace of the city. She trailed off as a female Capulet. Listening to my words, both Lawrence and Madeline look relieved.
それでこそキャピレット領を背負うものだ。
Lawrence is like, that's why you're the leader of the Capulet territory. And Juliet's like, after a pause, it's not without fear. Thank you for your guidance in the future, she told him, in reference to like needing his help later. Lawrence frowned silently as I said so. But I knew he could help in emergencies, so I can laugh. Lawrence took out a cigarette and set it on fire.
まあプレッシャーは大きいと思うんだな。キャピレット家は代々ヴァンパイアから町を守ってきた家柄だから。
Lawrence tells her, well, I think the pressure is great, and trailed off. The Capulet family has been protecting the city from vampires for generations, he concludes aloud.
領地がヴァンパイアの住む森に面した場所なのもそのせいなのよね。そういう立地だから、私がキャピレット領に赴任してからも小競り合いは絶えないわ。
Madeline tells her that's why that territory faces the forest where the vampires live. That's why it's in such a place. So even if I move to the Capulet territory, skirmishes are soon to be endless. Juliet tells her, I'm grateful to you, Madeline. It's thanks to you that I was able to learn in the church at ease. Madeline laughed with no trouble and shrugged.
やれやれ。この子は本当に真面目よね。そんなことでハンターとしてやっていけるのかどうか、時々心配になるくらい。
She also concluded, well, this kid is really serious. I sometimes am worried too about whether I can work as a hunter, though. And Juliet's like, well, and trailed off, then concluded, why do you say that, Madeline? She asked.
言うわよ。
In confusion.
あなたの今後が心配だもの。先のことなんてどうなるかわからないんだって笑い飛ばせるくらいにずぶとくなってほしい。
Madeline tells her, I say it because I'm worried about your future. I don't know what will happen, and I want to be thick enough to make you laugh.
ハンターとしての腕前だけで言えば。
Lawrence cuts him off. He's like speaking just as a hunter. Lawrence stared at me from head to toe. My back is naturally stretched out to the gaze of one being sentimental. She's like, this person is my teacher. His evaluation is important, and as a hunter, it is a measure of how much you are competent. What he's gonna tell her.
真面目なのが幸いしてか、射撃の腕前は悪くない。接近戦の成績がいまいちなのは力が弱いからで、これは頑張っても限界がある。
Lawrence tells her, fortunately for being so serious, you're not bad at shooting. You're not good at close combat, though, because you're weak. Both me and Madeline have felt that at some point. No matter how hard you train, you can only win about once in a close fight with a male hunter. Because vampires have much higher physical abilities than human men, she concludes to herself, it is unlikely you can beat the vampires in close combat.
だが、射撃の技術がそれを補ってあまりある。これなら、領地に帰ってもやっていけるだろう。ほぼ100発100中だ。
He finishes with this, though. However, your shooting technique can make up for it. And then trailed off again before stating, this could be done even if you return to your territory, almost 100 out of 100. So he's like, you're good. Lawrence is smoking a cigarette while pointing to the shooting target that she had used. The target has a hole only in the middle. If you're a quiet, stationary person, you can do this much, she thinks to herself.
これこの子がやったの？それはすごいわ。さすが長期休暇も帰らずに鍛錬しただけのことはある。
Madeline's like, what did this girl do? And then she's like, that's terrific. It's amazing. But there are times when I just train too without going back to my long vacation. So she's like, I can do it too. Madeline strokes my head to praise me like a young child. It's a gentle hand, and I feel a tickle from it. She's like to Madeline, even if you are complimenting me and I'm good at shooting at stationary objects, the actual target is moving, so I do not know if it will hit it. She's like being modest. And Madeline, she laughed and shook her head.
私たち派遣ハンターは人を的確に見抜く特技を持ってるの。褒めすぎなんてことはないわ。
She reassures her, she's like, we are scholar hunters. We have the skills to see people right. And there's never too much praise, she told her. When Madeline affirms this, I feel like I can do it myself. Juliet says, really?
ええ。それだけできれば、あとは実践あるのみよ。ハンターとして認められた後は、きっとキャピレット領を立派に守れるわ。
Madeline's like, yes. If you can do that, then you will only have to practice. After being recognized as a hunter, you'll surely be able to protect the Capulet territory fine.
その通りだ。ビビってないで前に進め。
Lawrence cuts in again and he's like, that's right. Don't be scared. Just go forward and ahead.
まずは1ヶ月後の最終試験をパスすることだな。話はそれからだ。
He's like, first of all, pass the final exam a month later from now, and then we'll talk. Lawrence tells her this. Yeah, I felt like I can do it myself, she concludes after this. And then she tells him aloud, yes, I will try my best. I think about the training I've accumulated so far, and she's like, perhaps it's time to move forward as I've been encouraged by them.
それじゃ、私たちは行くわね。ハンター見習い卒業まであと少し。元気でやってくのよ。
Madeline confirms, she's like, then we'll go, and it'll be fine. At the Hunter Apprentice graduation, Juliet. She tells her back Yeah, Madeline is going to be fine too. We shake hands and break up, but at that time, Lawrence added to this.
そうだ。近々教会で大きな集まりがあるらしい。
He's like, yes, but there seems to be a big gathering happening at the church, or in the church soon too. And MC's confused, so Juliet's like, it's unusual. I mean, it's not the time for the rally. And she's thinking to herself about the regular meetings. They're held to exchange information about vampires around the country. Otherwise, information will be fragmented for each territory. The next land could be invaded by a vampire without you realizing it.
追ってまた知らせる。お前も絶対に出席しろ。
Lawrence says, I'll let you know again, but absolutely, you must attend. She's like, yes, I see, to him. She saw Lawrence and Madeline out of the shooting range. And then this segment's going to end, so I'm going to go on ahead and finish the video out here as being part 1 of the prologue. I'm going to save right now. I retranslate this on my PSP. So, RT. And that's it, you guys. I will try to see about getting another one up next week. I decided to just do this right now to get it out of the way so that way I don't have a bunch of translations floating around. So, enjoy!